I still remember the first time she talked about her family. It was right after our third date. We were sitting on this old picnic table by the lake, sun just setting, air had that crisp fall chill, and she was hugging her knees to her chest, like she was trying to hold something in. She looked at me and said, I don't really talk about my family. It's complicated. Now, when someone says that, you usually figure it's just, I don't know, drama or maybe a bad childhood, right? So I didn't push. I just nodded and said, whenever you're ready. And that night, she opened up. At least, I thought she did. She told me her parents were both gone. Said her mom passed when she was in college. Dad had walked out way before that. She said she was raised mostly by her aunt and a couple cousins, moved around a lot, never really had a sense of home. And man, I felt for her. There was something in the way she talked about it, real soft, real vulnerable, that made me want to pull her in and protect her. And I think that's where it started. That feeling like she needed me. Like maybe I could give her the kind of safe place she never had. We'd only been dating a few months at that point, but things got serious fast. I mean, we were both in our 30s, both had careers, both knew what we wanted, or at least, I thought I did. She moved in 6 months later. I proposed not long after that. And through all of it, she never really brought up her family again. Just once in a while, she'd mention her cousin Jason, said he was like a brother to her, helped raise her when she was younger, always had her back. I never met the guy, but she showed me a photo once, some blurry picture of two kids hugging in a backyard. Said that was them, back when they were 10. Seemed sweet enough. But every time I asked if he'd be coming to the wedding, she'd get kinda distant. Said he traveled a lot, said he worked in tech or finance or something vague. He's not really the wedding type, she told me once, but maybe he'll come to the bachelor party, surprise you. I laughed, said, wouldn't that be a twist? I didn't think twice about it. But now I think about that sentence almost every day. I remember the night of the party clear as glass. It wasn't anything wild, we're not the Vegas Strip kind of crew. Just a couple buddies, a rented lake house, a few beers, a fire pit. It was low-key, chill, exactly what I needed. And then, right around 10 p.m., this guy pulls up in a black SUV. Steps out, all confident, like he owns the place. Leather jacket, perfect hair, that handshake grip, eye contact kind of energy. He walks straight up to me and goes, you must be the lucky guy. I nodded, smiled, said, yeah. And you are? He chuckles and says, Jason, her cousin. And right there, I felt it. Just a flicker, a pause in my chest. Something about the way he said it, too smooth, too polished, too, I don't know. My buddies all laughed, clapped me on the back, pulled him into the circle, and I went along with it. But deep down, I was watching, listening. And the more he talked, the more that flicker turned into something heavier. He knew her birthday, her favorite drink, the nickname her college roommates gave her. But when someone brought up her hometown, he said the wrong city. And when I corrected him, he gave me this weird smile and said, oh yeah, sorry, I always forget she moved around so much. But his eyes didn't match his smile. And something about that stuck with me. I excused myself, went inside, told the guys I needed some air. Truth is, I needed to breathe. My mind was spinning. Why did it feel like this guy was performing? Like he'd rehearsed what to say? I called her, stepped out to the back deck and dialed. She picked up, all sleepy-voiced like she'd just woken up. Hey babe, everything okay? I said, yeah, just wanted to say thank you. Jason showed up. That was a surprise. And there was this pause. Not long, but long enough. Then she said, oh wow, really? I wasn't sure if he would. I said, yeah, he's cool. Kinda intense. She laughed, said, that's just how he island. Protective. We hung up a few minutes later, and I stood out there under the stars, phone still in my hand, knowing something didn't add up. I just didn't know what, yet. I barely slept that night, not because anything dramatic happened, but because I couldn't shut my brain off. You know that feeling when something's bugging you, and you can't explain why, and the more you try to ignore it, the louder it gets? That was me, lying on that old couch in the lake house living room, staring at the ceiling fan going in slow circles, listening to the fridge hum in the kitchen. My buddies were all snoring in the next room, half a case of beer gone, but I was wide awake, thinking about Jason. About that pause on the phone when I said his name. About the way his smile didn't quite meet his eyes. And the more I thought about it, the more stuff started to click. Or maybe, unclick. I remembered how Amanda always dodged questions about her family. How she never let me meet anyone. How she said she had no living parents, no siblings, just a few cousins. But Jason? Jason talked like someone who knew her inside out, but not like family. More like something else, something closer. I told myself I was overthinking, that I'd had too much whiskey, that maybe I was just nervous about the wedding. But then, something weird happened. The next morning, while everyone was still asleep, I found Jason outside on the deck, alone, drinking coffee, staring out at the lake like he owned the moment. I figured I'd test the waters a little. So I sat next to him and said, "So, you and Amanda must have been close growing up." He nodded, real casual, said, "Yeah, you could say that." I asked where they used to live together. He hesitated, then said, "Mostly in Oregon. But Amanda told me she grew up in Colorado." I asked him if he ever met her mom. He said, "No, she passed when Amanda was really young." That lined up, but something in his tone felt rehearsed. So I leaned in and said, "You know, it's funny. She told me you once called her your first love. Like as a joke or something. That true?" I made it up, just to see what he'd do. And he froze. Just for a second. His eyes flicked toward me. And then he smiled. A slow, crooked little grin. "Did she?" he said. "That's cute." Then he stood up, stretched, and said, "Guess some memories are better left in the past." And walked back inside. I sat there for a long time, hands cold around my coffee mug, my chest tight, because that grin, that wasn't how a cousin smiles. That was something else, something darker. I couldn't enjoy the rest of the weekend. I went through the motions, laughed at jokes, helped clean up, but my mind was somewhere else. And when I got home, Amanda was waiting at the door with this big, warm hug, acting like everything was perfect. I kissed her, held her, but inside, something had changed. I needed answers. So I did something I didn't want to do. I opened her laptop. Just once. Just long enough to search for a name. Jason. I didn't dig deep. Just typed his name into the email search bar. And there it was. Dozens of messages. All recent. Not from years ago. And not written like cousins. Things like, "You still staying at your place or mine this weekend?" Or, "Don't forget to delete our messages, he's not dumb." One of them just said, "We have to stop." But she replied, "Not yet." I didn't read much more. My stomach turned. I closed the laptop and just sat there for a long time, staring at the floor, listening to the sound of the dryer running in the hallway. I felt stupid, embarrassed, angry. And more than anything, I felt used. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I waited. Waited until dinner, when we were sitting at the table like nothing had changed. She was talking about wedding decorations, flipping through a catalog, circling candles and table runners, and I just watched her, wondering how long she'd been lying, how deep this thing went. And then, real calm, I said, "Hey, do you still talk to Jason?" She blinked, looked up. "Jason? Not much. Why?" I just smiled. "I was just thinking about that photo of you two when you were kids. Still have it?" She hesitated. "I think so, somewhere." I nodded. "Cool. I was just thinking, he doesn't really look like you." She went quiet, like full stop quiet. And in that silence, I swear I could hear everything. The tick of the clock, the clink of her fork, the crack in her voice when she finally said, "Why are you asking me that?" I didn't answer. I just said, "You ever lie to someone so well, you start to believe it yourself?" Her eyes filled with something, fear maybe, or regret. But she didn't deny it. She just said, "I didn't know how to explain it." And I said, "Try." She didn't say anything for a while, just sat there staring at her plate like it might somehow give her the right words. I waited, didn't push. Just let the silence stretch out until she finally looked up and said, "He's not my cousin." I nodded. I already knew that part. But hearing her say it out loud still hit me, like a second wave after the first one knocks the wind out of you. I leaned back, arms crossed, just listening. She said they'd met years ago, in college. Dated off and on. Broke up. Got back together. Said he was bad for her, but she could never really stay away. And then, when we got serious, she told him it was over. That she was going to build a real future. With me. But I guess they never really stopped talking. She said she didn't plan for it to happen. That it was just emotional at first. And then, when the wedding got closer, it got messy. I asked her, "Why lie? Why not just walk away before all this?" And she said something I'll never forget. She said, "Because I wanted the life you could give me, but I wanted the part of me I lost with him." And man, that hurt in a way I can't explain. Because it wasn't just about betrayal. It was about being the safe option, the plan B, the stability after the storm. And nobody wants to be that. Nobody wants to be the life someone settles for. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything. I just said, "You need to leave." She started to cry. Said she was sorry, said she didn't want to lose me. But I was already gone in my head. You know that feeling when you finally see everything clearly? It's cold, but freeing. She packed a bag and left that night. I sat on the porch, same one where we used to drink coffee together, and listened to the wind move through the trees. It was quiet. Too quiet. Like the house could finally breathe again. The next few weeks were hard. I won't lie. You don't just stop loving someone overnight. There were nights I almost called her. Nights I went through old photos, wondering where it started to go wrong. But then I'd remember that grin he gave me at the bachelor party. That moment I knew, and I ignored it. And I'd remind myself, never again. Now here's the part I didn't expect. About a month later, Jason showed up. At my work. "Yeah," said he, "just wanted to talk." I was ready to shut it down, but something in me was curious. So we sat in my truck out in the lot and he looked at me and said, "You didn't deserve that." I didn't say anything. He went on. Told me he tried to pull away. Told me he told her to come clean or he would. Said he showed up at the party to see if I was really as decent as she said I was. And, his words, not mine, "You were." I asked him why he was telling me this. He said, "Because she's not okay. And I think she's going to try to come back to you." I said, "Well, she better not." He nodded. Said, "I told her she's got to stop running from herself." Then he handed me an envelope and said, "This was hers. Maybe you should read it." I didn't open it right away. Just stuck it in the glove box and drove home. That night, I sat down with a drink, opened the letter, and it was from her. A real letter. Not a text, not an email. She wrote about her childhood, about how her parents fought all the time, how love always came with conditions, how she never learned what trust really looked like, and how, with me, she saw it for the first time and didn't know what to do with it. She said, "I wanted to be that version of myself you believed in, but I didn't believe in her yet." I finished the letter, folded it back up, and set it on the table. I didn't cry, didn't feel angry. I just felt tired, like someone had finally set down a heavy box they'd been carrying for too long. I never responded, and she never showed up. I think she knew better. And me? I took some time, took a trip, rebuilt the parts of me I'd let get too tied up in someone else. And now, when I sit out on that porch, I don't think about what I lost. I think about what I learned. Truth is, people lie for all kinds of reasons. But the worst lie is the one that makes you doubt yourself. And if someone makes you feel like you're the backup plan, walk away. Quietly. With your head high. Let them sit in the echo of your absence. That's not revenge, that's peace.